You know, I really relate to Dr. Brewer. I love plants. I also have a man locked in my basement. Hi everybody, my name's King Noosme. Stay Out of the Basement is probably one of the most popular and loved Goosebumps books. It's the second book out of the original 62, but it also has one of the most iconic covers in the series. Actually, two of the most iconic covers in the series. I remember seeing both of these covers a lot as a kid. And the book was made when Stine was still trying to tone down his stories for his new kid audience. And because of this, it's known as one of the scarier, more intense, and most memorable books in the original 62. It's so popular that characters from the story have made appearances in other Goosebumps media, like the plant monster in the Goosebumps game. Watch as I swiftly defeat him, making him cower like a little wham wham baby. Dr. Brewer appears in the mobile app Goosebumps Horror Town, and just like a bunch of other covers, you can find the cover art for the book in the 2008 Goosebumps Horrorland game, as well as some merch. Very odd merch for this one. Like 2 different kinds of scissors, regular safety scissors and twisted scissors, whatever that means, but still no left-handed scissors. Why? Lefties rise up. I'm left-handed by the way. I'm left-handed, so I'm pretty much like better than you. As well as a protractor that looks cool, but doesn't seem too practical. And this honestly pretty cool tape dispenser. And a door cover? Why? They also have some cursed trading cards. Unironically, the scariest thing to come out of the story is these trading cards. Look at them, they're horrifying. And it was also a main part of the newest Goosebumps series we got, Goosebumps The Vanishing, with David Schwimmer playing Dr. Brewer. I actually really liked what they were doing with it for a second. And then they completely forgot about it and replaced it with aliens. But wait, you gotta wait for the Goosebumps The Vanishing video for more details, which I'll post to revive my channel when views are low. Today we're taking a look at the 90s Goosebumps series version of the story. It's the 12th and 13th episode of the first season of the show, and it is a fan favorite of the series. And people have been begging me to talk about it since before I was even covering Goosebumps. But I know you guys are just itching to hear me talk about it, so let's quit yapping and get into it. We start this episode by meeting Margaret Brewer and her mom. Her mom is headed out to visit her sister who is sick in the hospital, but this seems like a very bad time for her to be making a trip because Margaret is starting to get very worried about her father.
But he never has time for me anymore. He's even stopped calling me princess.
He was recently fired from his job and has been working pretty much non-stop in their basement ever since. And he's also beginning to act a bit strange. Margaret's little brother Casey comes out to say goodbye to his mom and to defend his dad for spending all his time working. And their mom, Miss Brewer, kind of sides with Casey and tells Margaret that their dad is just trying to prove that the university made a mistake in firing him. So he's working on something big. But Margaret knows and understands why he's working so hard, but she just can't shake this feeling that something is wrong with him. But her mom assures Margaret that her father is going to be fine, and she tasks both of the kids to take care of him and make sure he's eating and taking breaks and stuff. And after they say their goodbyes to their mom, they rush inside to tell their dad it's time to take her to the airport. But when they bang on the basement door, nobody answers. So they decide to just go down into the basement and get him. And when they're about halfway down, they hear, "Stay out of the basement!" Obviously furious with them, the kids apologize in a very Canadian fashion.
We're sorry, but...
Sorry, Dad, sorry. I'm sorry. And they want us to believe these guys are from New York City. Okay. She would have been like, "I'm walking here." Or like, "Give me a chopped cheese." I don't know. I've never been to New York City. Their dad apologizes for yelling at the kids. He just has very important stuff down there and he doesn't want the kids messing with it or hurting themselves. He then reminds them to not go into the basement and then heads out to take Miss Brewer to the airport. Margaret is a bit confused about why he's so stressed about them going into the basement, even though it's pretty obvious why he doesn't want them to be down there.
Because he doesn't want us messing with his work.
Exactly! Casey gets it! Okay, now that we have a break in the story, let's talk about the actors real quick. Becky Lantos, or Rebecca Henderson, plays Margaret in this episode, and she also played Corrine Hollings in the episode How I Got My Shrunken Head in season 4. She's also in the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode The Tale of Laughing in the Dark as this little girl, I think. I mean, they look similar. She's just named girl number 1 on IMDb, so I don't know. Her little brother, Casey Brewer, is played by Blake McGrath, who sadly isn't in anything else of note. And Dr. Brewer is played by Judah Katz, and he also isn't in another Goosebumps episode, but he does appear in the PSI Factor. And lastly, their mom, Miss Brewer, is played by Lucy Peacock, and she has been on the channel before in the episode You Can't Scare Me as the biology teacher. And when we come back to the kids, we get a cool little Easter egg.
Yes!
That explosion actually came in the episode Welcome to Camp Nightmare. This little snippet has been in a lot of other episodes too, like Bride of the Living Dummy and An Old Story. I lied, Saber is in the Bride of the Living Dummy. Whoops. And if you listen closely to the music that's playing in the video game, it does sound like the Goosebumps theme song. While Casey is playing his game, Margaret hears a very strange and scary noise coming from the basement. It sounds like something is having a hard time breathing. The kids think that maybe it's a hurt animal or something down there, so they have to break their father's rules just to make sure. They sneak down the steps into their dad's jungle of a basement, illuminated by an ominous green light. Casey talks about how insanely hot it is down there, and he takes off his sweater because of it. The kids notice that the breathing sound is coming from the plants themselves, and Margaret spots the specific plant that seems to be making the creepy breathing noise. And when she gets a bit too close to it, it latches onto her and tries to pull her in. Luckily, she escapes the vines, but she did accidentally cut herself on one of the thorns. Suddenly, the dad comes home. The kids rush out of the basement and try to close the door and act like they never even went down there. But Casey's dumbass left his sweater in the basement. So he quickly runs down there to fetch it, but he needs to hurry because his dad is walking into— never mind, he's looking at the leaves of this bush. Luckily, Casey makes it into the basement, but his sweater isn't where he left it. Margaret starts to panic because their dad is actually coming inside, but Casey can't seem to find his sweater anywhere. And it seems like all of the plants are trying to stop him from doing so. Their dad makes his way inside— never mind, he's checking on the marigolds now. Man, does this guy have like ADHD or something? He gets distracted very easily. Luckily, Casey does find his sweater and makes it upstairs before their dad gets inside. But the kids don't really hide the fact that they were in the basement very well. They cave immediately and confess to being in the basement because there were noises coming from the basement.
I'm sorry, Dad.
God, she is so Canadian, man. They couldn't be like, hey, do the American sorry. Sorry, Dad. Sorry. Luckily for the kids, their dad isn't mad that they were in the basement. Rather, he sits them down and explains to them what he's doing in the basement, so they are a little less curious about what's going on down there. He tells them that botanists take the good qualities from some plants and merge them with another to make a stronger or a new plant completely. Kind of like what GMOs do, if you learned about those in middle school. That's basically what he's doing. But he's doing a more unusual version of this. But that part is what he has to keep secret until the study is complete. Then Dr. Brewer heads back to the basement to get to work. And this is when Margaret tries a Hail Mary attempt to actually spend some time with her father. But he sadly turns her down because he has very important things he needs to work on. More important than your kids? Man, this guy's literally a workaholic. Like, he's literally addicted to working. The next morning, Margaret makes her dad a nice breakfast in hopes of making him feel better and like her more, I guess. I don't know what she's doing. She knocks on the basement door and tries to get him to come up and eat, but all she can hear is the breathing plants on the other side. We got to later that day, and Dr. Brewer still hasn't eaten, and Margaret is a little upset that her father hasn't come out of his cave. But Casey once again gives his father the benefit of the doubt and says that sometimes he forgets to eat because he's working so hard. But he will come up whenever he's ready. And speak of the devil, he actually comes upstairs to eat. Margaret walks over to make sure he sees the plate on the table, but when she gets into the kitchen, she spots Dr. Brewer shoveling handfuls of plant food into his mouth. He eats so much of it that he actually finishes off the tub of food and hides it in a trash can under the sink. And then he fills a gallon pitcher with water and proceeds to suck the whole gallon down like it's nothing. Finally, Margaret speaks up and tells him that she made him breakfast, but he just replies,
I'm not hungry.
"Yeah, I bet. You just ate a whole tub of NPK." Later that day, Margaret calls her mom to tell her about what she just witnessed. But Miss Brewer just says that it's probably a part of his work and to not worry about it too much. But like Margaret said before, she can't shake this feeling that something is really wrong with her father.
Feeling about Dad.
Well, speak of the devil. Again. Man, this guy really appears at the right time, doesn't he? We listen to one side of their parents' conversation, but the creepy part about this phone call is Dr. Brewer is very deadpan the whole time he talks to Miss Brewer. Despite him trying to sound enthusiastic in what they're talking about, he just doesn't act like it at all. Yeah, something is definitely very wrong with him. That night, Margaret is awakened by noises that are coming from the hallway. She sneaks out of bed to find her dad in the bathroom, unwrapping a bandage from his arm to reveal a disgusting green slime bleeding out from him. As she keeps spying on him, she sees leaves have started to sprout from his head. She tries to keep quiet, but Dr. Brewer can sense something is off. He turns around and looks dead at her, which spooks Margaret, so she sprints back to her room and acts like she's been sleeping the whole time. Her father follows her and enters her room to find that she is sound asleep. Ish. But he stays there for a second, standing over her, as if he's contemplating what he should do about her. The next morning, Margaret tells Casey what she saw the night before. But of course, he doesn't believe her. She tells him that she is starting to think that their dad has turned into a mad scientist. But before they can finish their conversation, their dad calls them downstairs for breakfast. They take a seat and Casey points out how strange it is that their dad started wearing a baseball cap because he doesn't like baseball. Or hats. And after Casey makes this little remark, Dr. Brewer decides to finally talk to them about how strange he has been acting. But first, he asks Margaret if she's okay, where she immediately folds again. Like, good for these parents for successfully teaching their kids to not lie, but oh my god, you can make him dig a little bit harder for the truth, you know? She then asks her dad why leaves are growing out of his head, where Dr. Brewer claims that it's a side effect from his experiment. But that doesn't explain the green goo that is coming from his cut. So he explains that away by saying the green goo is a side effect of the leaves. So now our side effects have side effects. What a crazy world we live in. Finally, Dr. Brewer tells the kids that he's trying to make a plant that's part plant, part animal. So he's mixing plant DNA with animal DNA and seeing what will happen. But that's all he will say about it. He then gives the kids this disgusting green slop and tells them to eat it. Obviously, very disgusted, they both refuse, but he angrily tells them,
pick up your spoons and eat it.
Luckily for them, someone is at the door. Man, they really got saved by the bell in that one there. Also, fun fact, this green disgusting goo is just a blended up broccoli. That's all it is. Dr. Brewer goes to open the door, and as he does this, the kids toss the green muck in the trash. I can say I don't blame them. And he opens the door to find that it is his old boss, Dr. Merrick. He has come to visit Dr. Brewer and to check up on his experiment. Dr. Merrick is very upset that the university fired him, so he's trying to help him get his job back.
Oh, hi guys. How are you?
Hi. What a nice guy. Who looks very familiar. Dr. Brewer doesn't want to be bothered while his boss is there checking out his experiments, so he tells the kids to go outside and play for a little while. So they go out and they toss a frisbee around for a while when Margaret throws one a bit too hard and sends it flying into the bushes. So Casey chases it down and reaches down in the bushes to grab the frisbee, but the frisbee lands near the basement window, which is slightly open, so he can hear his dad and Dr. Merrick arguing in the basement. Casey leans down against the window to try and hear a little bit better, but that's when a vine grows behind him, towering over Casey, for snapping down and wrapping around him. Casey cries for help, but the plant is tough and won't let him go. Luckily, Margaret comes in and saves him right on time and unwraps one of the vines and rips part of the plant, hurting it, making the plant cower back into the basement. Side note, the plant kind of makes like a whining noise as if it was like a puppy or something.
You okay?
It is very strange, but I guess it matches the animal DNA part of the experiment, so good job on the show production people for leaving that little detail in. Dr. Brewer comes outside immediately after the plant retreats, and the kids try to explain what just happened to them. But Dr. Brewer does not want to hear it, and he gets onto them for being near the basement window. It is now pretty obvious to the kids that their father is getting more and more hostile towards them. Unlike the day before, it's almost like he is now demanding that they respect him and trust everything he says. Margaret tells them that they heard the two doctors fighting in the basement, but Dr. Brewer claims that there was no fight, and since he said there was no fight, there wasn't a fight. He also tells the kids that Dr. Merrick left, but neither of them saw him leave despite both of them being outside.
I didn't see him leave.
Are you interrogating me, Margaret?
No.
And so he asks the kids again why they are near the basement window, and the kids once again tell them that they were just playing when a vine grabbed Casey. But he just simply doesn't believe the kids, where Casey has had enough and asks his dad if he is becoming a mad scientist.
You're not a mad scientist, are you, Dad?
No, I'm an angry scientist.
I mean, angry is a synonym for mad, so technically you are a mad scientist, you know what I mean? Like, you just, I don't want to anger you, but you kind of just said the same thing. Dr. Brewer once again thinks that the kids are spying on him, so he punishes both of them and makes them go up to their rooms. Later that night, we watch as Dr. Brewer puts a green liquid into a pipette and force feeds it to someone or something that he's been hiding in the closet. And it might just be Dr. Merrick. That night, Margaret and Casey hear another strange noise coming from downstairs. They walk downstairs to investigate, where they find their father has put locks on the basement door, and he tells them that he also put some on the basement windows that lock from the inside. Dr. Brewer tells the kids that he's going out for a few hours and to not go into the basement for any means. This strange behavior from her father has Margaret very spooked, so she tries to find the number to call their mom, but she can't seem to find it anywhere. She thinks her dad must have hidden it from them so she would quit calling her mom every day and talking about how strange her dad has become. But Casey still has some faith in their father, and he doesn't see why their dad would just hide something like that from them. But Margaret points out to Casey that their dad has been lying a lot lately, and she's still not fully sure if Dr. Merrick left earlier in the day. So Margaret sneaks into their parents' room to look for the number, where they find that their parents' room is completely trashed and there's papers littered everywhere. Casey is a little creeped out about being in their parents' room without permission and just begs Margaret to leave the whole time they're in there.
Come on, let's get out of here.
But she is determined to find the phone number if it's the last thing she'll do. And while searching, they get a phone call. It's Dr. Merrick's wife, and it looks like he hasn't made his way home yet, which has his wife very worried about him. And the kids as well. Surprisingly, their dad comes back home way earlier than they expected. This causes the kids to panic and try to rush to leave, and in their hurry, Margaret accidentally knocks the answering machine down and kind of broke it. Luckily for her, Casey is a good sibling and actually distracts their dad for a minute so that she can escape. But she couldn't find a good opportunity to escape, and she gets a little nervous, so she decides not to. Dr. Brewer tells Casey that he accidentally left something and that he will be right back out. He just needs to go back into his room to find it. And he goes into his room to find that everything seems in order. Sadly, Margaret didn't have enough time to escape, so she hid under his bed. She holds her breath as her father looks at papers on the bed, and he decides to sit on the bed, where slowly worms start falling all around Margaret. Dr. Brewer then accidentally drops Dr. Merrick's wallet right in front of her, proving her suspicion that her father has something to do with the doctor's disappearance. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, the dad leaves the room and the house. But Margaret can't leave because she has a new suspicion about her father. She doesn't want to leave the room until they look under the covers. So her and Casey toss the sheets off the bed to reveal thousands of worms and dirt now occupy where their father sleeps every night. And it looks like it's breathing. Weird. Margaret has had enough of the questions. She wants answers, and she knows exactly where to find those answers. In the basement. The kids go into a tool shed and look for anything to protect themselves from the killer plants that are down there. And before they head down into the scary abyss, Casey luckily finds a giant tank of weed killer. So they break the lock and slowly make their way down into the terrifying green basement. The kids hug the walls and slowly make their way around the room, spraying anything that tries to attack their legs. As they look around, they find what looks like a hand and leg growing out of a pot. And the plant that grabbed Margaret earlier in the episode has now gotten massive. It also has grown a face of its own. Side note, the face that you see peeking out of the plant is actually the head of Carly Beth from the Haunted Mask episode. I didn't notice this before, but after I heard that it was, I can't unsee it. It's definitely her. And just like before, the plant grabs Margaret's leg, trying to pull her in, but luckily Casey sprays it until the vines retreat. And while they're down there, the kids hear someone banging on the closet door, and they find Dr. Merrick's clothes and briefcase on the floor beside the door. Thinking he's in the room, they open the closet to find more plants. And their dad? Confused and worried, Margaret tries to help their dad, but Casey stops her before she can do anything because it might be another plant monster that just looks like their dad. All while their dad pleads for them to untie him. But they want to make sure it's their actual father before completely untying him. So they just remove the mouth tape, where he seems super excited to see the kids, and he tells them that the person that they've been walking around and living with isn't human, but a plant copy of him. He begs them to untie him so that he can help get rid of the plant monster, which Margaret cautiously does. And after she does, Dr. Brewer quietly stands up, reaches down, grabs a crowbar off the floor, and stares at them menacingly. That's when the other father comes downstairs as well and claims that he is actually their real dad and that they just released an evil plant clone of him. But of course, the closet dad rebuttals and says that he is actually the evil one. Do not trust him. The closet dad says that he even tried to make plant copies of the kids, and that's why he tried to make them eat that green goop concoction thing. The pressure is a bit too much for Casey, and he can't stand it. So he gives the weed killer to Margaret, and this is when the two dads try their best to convince Margaret to spray the other. But there is only one thing that proves to Margaret which father is the real one.
Before it's too late, destroy him.
Princess! Princess!
Margaret instantly turns and sprays the ball cap dad with the weed killer, making him melt into a pile of vines and leaves. She could tell which one was the real one because only her real dad would call her princess. Sometime later, Dr. Brewer and Dr. Merrick start loading all of the supplies onto the back of his truck, because Dr. Brewer has successfully proven that he deserves his job back at the university. Also, they need a safer place to keep the experiments. It's probably not good to have evil plant people in someone's basement. Dr. Brewer thanks Dr. Merrick for giving him his job back, and we finally get to learn what actually happened down there. Dr. Brewer accidentally cut himself on a slide when he was working on the plant DNA, and his blood mixed in with some of the plant molecules, and that caused him to accidentally make something that was part plant, part human. He just took this experiment a little too far and made an exact copy of himself. But Dr. Brewer says that the plant copy seemed evil to them, but in reality, it was just trying to do what any other living organism does. It tries to dominate the area it occupies. So it overpowered the real Dr. Brewer and wanted to make plant copies of everyone around him so that they could survive. And Dr. Merrick says,
Well, I'm just glad we're all okay.
"Oh my god, I know where he's from now. Dr. Merrick plays the principal in My Babysitter's a Vampire." Holy crap, I was trying to figure that out for days. Could I have looked it up? Sure. Did I want to? No. Now the whole family are back together and they are very tired of plants, so they decide to make some hamburgers for dinner. They all head inside where Margaret stays back and bends down to tie her shoe, where she hears a little whisper nearby.
Margaret. Margaret, help me. Please help me. I'm your father. I'm your real father. Real father.
Oh, I'm your father.
No, I'm your father.
I'm your father.
And that's how the episode ends. Honestly, I see why this episode is so well loved. They do a great job with the ambiance, especially in this episode. Right from the jump, we are introduced to this creepy basement that's covered in ominous green light. That paired with the eerie music and the creepy breathing noises you hear the whole time they're down there, and also the plants that slowly move as the kids walk through them, that is enough to absolutely terrify me, especially as a kid. And that happens in the first 5 minutes of the episode. They get you hooked so fast. I think they did a perfect job at making the basement seem really, really creepy. It almost seems otherworldly in a way. And those scenes paired with the nighttime scenes where everything is illuminated in a low blue light, scenes like this help make the episode seem 100 times creepier. And these creepy scenes paired with the gross out things that they have, like Dr. Brewer's cut having green stuff coming out of it, the green gross muck that he was going to make the kids eat, as well as his hair being leaves, which honestly, it's Goosebumps, so it does look a little wacky. But this all tied together to make a really intense and insane episode that I really enjoy a lot. I said it in my Discord that I completely forgot how good of a book and episode this was. I also think the kids did a great job acting in this episode, and it definitely helps a ton whenever they get good actors for this show. For example, Welcome to Camp Nightmare, which is my favorite episode. It's one of the best episodes because it's such a strong cast of kids that know how to act very well and have good chemistry together. Luckily for us viewers, Margaret and Casey in this episode also have good chemistry together, and they can both act very well. And this really helps the episode feel more real than it is. Although I will say, Margaret was a little too Canadian for me at times, but I'll forgive her for that. Dr. Brewer is another reason this episode works so well. Judah Katz does a great job playing a lovable dad at the start and then an evil plant dad at the end. I mean, he starts off being an understandable and loving dad at the beginning and ends up being a downright evil, creepy, and mean person by the end, which really helps with the mystery around the episode as well. I mean, he sold it very well. Starting the episode off like almost a little secretive. He just didn't want his kids going in the basement, hurting themselves, messing something up, and keeping just the big part of his experiment a secret, to going completely secret, not talking to his kids at all, eating strange things, shoveling plant food into his face hole, getting furious at the kids for any little thing that they do, and also suddenly wearing a baseball cap even though he never wore one before, to hide the fact that he has leaves for hair from the kids in the world. All these things combined together really helped sell this episode very well, and I'm so glad that we got it. This was one episode that R.L. Stine wanted to be made for the show. Like, he wanted his favorite books, of course, to be made, so I had no doubts that this one was going to be a banger. But just like every episode, there are a few differences from the book and the episode. Although I do think this episode did a pretty good job at following the story pretty well. There are some massive changes, like omitting Margaret's friend Diane from the story completely. Granted, she wasn't in the story for very long, so I understand why they just cut her out completely. And another kind of important one is that the family lives in New York City in the show and they live in California in the books. They also changed Dr. Brewer's boss from Dr. Martinez to Dr. Merrick. I'm guessing they just couldn't get a Latino guy to play Dr. Martinez, so they just changed his name completely. Also, the first time they go into the basement, Casey takes off his sweater in the show, but in the book, he just takes his entire shirt off. Whole naked chest around those evil plants. Like nipples free kind of shit. Also, in the episode, the basement has a ton of green light to have a more ominous and creepy feel to it, but in reality, that's not going to keep those plants alive. And in the book, Stine knows this, so the basement is actually incredibly bright so they could replicate the sun for those plants. And probably the biggest difference from the book and the episode is at the end of the episode, Margaret uses weed killer to kill the plant dad, but in the book, the real Dr. Brewer uses an axe and chops up his plant clone into pieces. I kind of wish they did that in the show. That would have been really cool, but I understand why they couldn't do it. Also, the twist at the end is slightly different. In the episode, you have multiple flowers claiming to be Margaret's dad, but in the book, it was just one flower that claimed to be Margaret's dad. So, just a small one, but I honestly like the change that they made for multiple flowers to say it. I feel like that's a little bit creepier. It gives off the vibes that they're not completely done with the monsters yet. Oh, and Dr. Brewer is completely bald with twigs and leaves growing out of his head in the book, and in the episode, his hair just grows leaves somehow. Very strange. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, a Discord server, and your name right here on screen. I just want to add an extra thank you for all these people that support me directly. I really do appreciate it, and you guys really motivate me a lot to keep making these videos. Like the video if you liked the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.